the cavalry isn't coming.
Mhm.
You can spend 5 years, 10 years with a script under your arm, or maybe as a director or as a writer, and say, oh, here's my project, and it's only worth, the cost is only 500,000 or whatever. Same. Have you ever built a house? If you haven't built a house, nobody's going to pay you to build a house.
I wanted to ask you this question about because it kind of connects to both of us about the bumpy road of getting to that first film, and I guess the question kind of revolves around what first time feature filmmakers stumble over, because I say that because I think we did that because you and I were trying to find scripts together for a while there, and as things go, sometimes those things connect. You find the right piece where you can get that happening together, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you have to defer. Hopefully we'll be doing something down the line. But at the same time, it was an interesting education process, I thought, because we were looking at a variety of scripts, trying to come up with concepts, and so yeah, I just wonder if you'd like to address, I guess, what some of that process of the bumpy road of getting the right piece of work for a low budget first time film, because that's really what we were trying to get, that first stepping stone, I guess. It was
Absolutely. So I think there's two things. The first thing is, I think both you and I, in many ways, we grew up in the 90s, which was a completely different mindset. That was the years of the Quentin Tarantino, the big action movies of the late 80s, 90s, maybe Stallone, Schwarzenegger, etc., Terminator 2, and completely different time. And there was kind of a legend around the time that in the 90s you could get a film, and a low budget film was $3 million. And so when I grew up in the 90s, I thought, oh, I'm going to do $3 million budget film, the first film I do, because that's what all those guys are doing. And no, it did not work out that way. The business has changed a lot. The films that would go in cinemas in the $1 million range, etc., pretty much gone. There's a few that have gone forward. I mean, but more in the horror range now. Skinamarink, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it right, which was done for like $10,000. Babadook, a few $100,000, etc. But again, we're talking more about the exception than the norm. Because it's easier to make a movie nowadays. You don't have film, lab, big cameras, etc. There's a lot more films around. It's like books on Amazon. Before, you needed to get somebody to print a book, buy it out, etc., put it in shelves. Nowadays, you do it on your computer, you put it online, but you're one in a million. So it's becoming the same for films, which is great and more difficult. Right now, for me, it's great because it enables me to get stuff out. So yeah, that journey is completely different to what it used to be. Going back to the process, I think it's finding people along the way. There's two things: finding people which will understand what you're trying to do and which will have coherent expectations in the indie world. Recently, like a few weeks ago, I was talking with somebody, a scriptwriter. I'm not going to give any names. It's not the point in that. He had a fabulous script. It was great. It was gripping. Very interesting project. I said to him, well, it's going to take a minimum of 1 year to get it made. And upfront, you're not going to get much money, if any. And also, by the way, if I'm going to work 1 year on it, I'm not getting paid during that 1 year. So the value of what I'm doing is more like $50,000, whatever, in time. Your time, anybody's time has value to do so. And he went mental. He said, I want 50K. I said, well, fine. Not for me. Maybe he'll find somebody who'll say, hey, here's a check for $50,000 and another $500,000 down the line and get it done. Maybe in 5 years, he's still at the same stage and wondering why it didn't get done. So you need to find people who have the right expectation. When you've got nothing to show, may it be as a director, may it be as an actor, may it be as a writer, you've got to get stuff done to exist, to be relevant in the marketplace. If you want to go and get finance, maybe $5,000, $10,000, $50,000, $500,000, whatever. If you have nothing before, you're not going to get anything done. It's like if I'm asking somebody to build a house, he says, "Oh yeah, I can build you a house. How many houses have you built?" None. Sorry, I'm going to pass.
Yeah.
It makes sense. It makes sense. It's hard to get as an actor to be seen. It's hard as a writer to get your stuff done as a film or short film. It's hard as a director to make anything. So the team you work with, actors, writers, if you're the director yourself, everybody's got to be on the same page and understand there is no money or very little money now, and let's put the money on screen and get it done rather than, think that the script I've got is worth $3 million. If you are the son, daughter of somebody in LA who's been in the business for 50 years, blah, 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 your script will get read. Doesn't mean it will get done. It will get read. Eventually down the line, you'll get something done. Us, we need to get our proverbial rear ends off the chairs and go forward and do stuff. Yeah. That's one thing. The other thing, and that's more because we live in Canada, which has a system closer to Europe for film production. If you go and try and get a film done via the usual process, may it be with Telefilm Canada or provincial subsidies, etc. There's two things. If you're a big American company and you're doing a big film in Ontario, etc., the door's going to be open. You'll get a subsidies, etc. If you and you say, "Hey, can I get a few loonies, toonies here?" It's going to be more difficult because the process to do so, to do the first film, I thought I'll just do it.
Right.
I didn't want to go through all that process, etc. It wasn't worth it in the budget range I was working. In the future, maybe. I'm more into speed and getting things done quickly. So, it's a different approach.
And I guess one of the things I noticed too was that it's one thing to say you have to understand the limitations, but what I realized in digging through all the material and trying to find, it's not just a matter of oh well, you just need a minimal cast, or because you do, that's one element, and then oh well, you just need to minimize locations, and you do, but that's only one element. You got to, like you said, you've got to get you got to get on board with writers who are willing to recognize that you're not working with a $10 million budget and can't assign them $100,000 scriptwriter fee, or you got to find people who are willing to work with you on set, I guess, when it comes to the cost of things as well. So there's all those factors that you have to bring together, and that has to sometimes even be part of what is being written or what you're taking on for a script. Because if there's too many visual effects, even if they seem minor, they might be bigger too. Yep. So one of the things I realize is that it's not just a matter of saying, okay, low cast numbers, minimal location, and then we're good, because there's other things to consider.
It's very interesting, because that's actually it's part of the rules, and in a sense, I wish I'd understood those rules earlier. But I still got a few years, hopefully, life in front of me to do more stuff. But it goes back, to a saying which I think was Mark Duplass who said that, which is, the cavalry isn't coming. You can spend 5 years, 10 years with a script under your arm, or maybe as a director or as a writer, and say, "Oh, here's my project, and it's only worth, the cost is only $500,000 or whatever." Same. Have you ever built a house? If you haven't built a house, nobody's going to pay you to build a house. What some people, especially unfortunately, writers think is low cost is not low cost. If you're telling me, oh, the film takes place in a hospital, it's abandoned, and something happens, there's only 3 people inside. I think, well, number one, do I have an abandoned hospital? Can I get it for free or closer to free? Otherwise, rental fee for a location is a minimum $2,500 a day. So that's going to add up. So the cavalry isn't coming refers to the fact that nobody's going to help you except yourself and the people the other crazy people you can drag into your project. It's silly, but it goes back, and I think it was Rodriguez who said, write with what you have around you, what's available to you. For most people, it's going to be a house or street location that they can steal easily. But if you have a friend that, I don't know, owns a cafe, arrange to shoot in the cafe and get a few people and pay the coffees or whatever for a few hours and get a scene in a cafe. That's it. What you've got to do is you've got to be, and that's obviously subjective for people, but as creative as you can be to get something done. And doesn't mean I'm a creative genius in any way whatsoever, but you've got to find an angle in what you're doing to differentiate yourself from the other 1,000 movies coming out that month. And that figure, I wish it wasn't, but it is. It's like 1,000 films coming out globally every month. Your window of opportunity for your film is like a few weeks, boom, that's it. So yeah, you need to write according to what you have available, and you've got to be creative. So maybe it's going to be, I don't know, it's going to be something that's controversial, but that's dangerous. But if you've got something to say that is controversial, whatever your position is, go for it. I mean, don't say you eat children or stuff like that. Not that kind of controversial, but yeah, you've got to differentiate yourself in the market and get it done. Write for what you can do, and there's a lot of resources online. Noam Kroll's blog. I hope I'm not slaughtering his name. Tom Malloy, people like that. YouTube channels. Jason Horton. Who have a lot of advice and who are very down to earth, which doesn't say they don't kill dreams. It's just they actually tell you if you've got a dream and you want to make it real, these are the steps. Like silly things like, I want to do scenes at night. Have you thought about your lighting?
Right.
Night is more difficult than day. So yeah, it's write according to what you can get done, at least for the first project. And keep it realistic.